Good morning to everyone. A very warm welcome to one and all present here. Honorable Chairman, Dr. Mohan Mangnani, in his absence here, Principal, Dr. Manjunatha B, Deans, Head of the Departments of all professors, my dear colleagues, and all the participants. I, Dr. Supriya Suresh from Department of Information Science and Engineering, feel deeply honored to welcome all of you on behalf of New Horizon College of Engineering to the AICTE-sponsored 6-day short-term training program on Internet of Things and its applications from 21st September to 26th September, phase 1 training, and 28th September to 3rd October, phase 2 training from the fund received from the Department of Information Science Engineering in coordination with Department of Computer Science and Engineering and Electronics and Communication Engineering, NHCE, in association with Computer Society of India and Vishwesvaraya Technological University. Vakratunda Mahakaya Surya Koti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kurumedeva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada. Lord Ganesha, the God worshipped first in all occasions, is known to unfasten all the obstacles ahead. Of course, God is omnipresent and is with us through all times. As a mark of our undying tradition, I would like the program to begin with an invocation song to invoke the blessings of Almighty through a Ganesha Vandana. With the blessings of Lord Ganesha, I now request our beloved Principal, Dr. Manjunatha B, to address the gathering.
Good morning, all the participants. Good morning, all the dignitaries, expert speakers. Today, we are conducting short-term technical program. It's actually supported by AICTE. The particular topic, according to me, it is most relevant. IoT, what we are talking now, IoT applications are very, very important. Say for example, very simple example today, we are all connecting through internet. How we are conducting this webinar? See, generally in conventional method, we used to call all the faculty members, all the experts in the campus, and we used to interact with all of you and we were sharing the experience. Now, this particular webinar kind, and we are connecting all of you through internet. This is one of the application of Internet of Things. See, whenever we talk about Internet of Things, we talk about smart buildings, smart cities, and how actually all the equipments and manufacturing unit, it is connected through internet is most important. And the future, if you look at this COVID-19, though it is actually disturbing economic conditions of the entire world, but also it is giving opportunity for everyone to use internet inevitably. We started online classes, we started online webinars, all those things we started. So now in this particular, through this platform, we are going to understand particular about Internet of Things. In smart building, how we are going to connect to the internet through sensors, through actuators, through other the equipments, it may be machine learning, deep learning, everything we are going to actually understand. When we understand this, we can apply easily. Even our Prime Minister, he was actually mentioning Atmanirbhar concept. This Atmanirbhar concept, what we can do is, we can actually manufacture almost all the automotive components from our, maybe by our experts, and also let us start almost all the manufacturing units in India. Now, I advise all the experts and also all the faculty member, kindly you work on this Internet of Things, do research and innovation. If you do the research, definitely industry connection, we can do it. If you look at other countries, most of the institutes are connected to the industry, and industries are always, they seek the advice and suggestion from institution experts. But in India, it is this particular concept is too less. Most of the industry, they may go to IIT and IASC for their research and innovation, but why not the other private institutes? Even private institutions are functioning very well, and you can observe most of the IITs and IASC, the products in the sense, the engineers, they go to abroad and work for other nation. Whereas the private institution, I can say tier 2 institutions, they are actually producing engineers, they are working for the nation. I'm proud of it. Though IITs and IASCs, government is spending lot of money, and they are actually, once they complete their engineering or degree or postgraduate, what they do, they search for job, and other countries with good package, they invite them and attract them, they go and start working outside. But whereas the private institute, the products, that means engineers, they work in India and work for the nation. What I suggest all of you, leave it, the IITians, because we are not this is not a platform to advise them to work for the India. At least all private institution faculty members are there, experts are there. Please you encourage other engineers also, tier 2 engineers also, to learn many things, and definitely they are working for the nation. So with this, I actually request everyone, please interact effectively and understand the concept and implement it. And this particular, whatever the program you are attending and you are understanding this concept, please actually transfer this to your students, because they are the future technology experts. If they understand it properly, definitely they work for India, and India will become number one in the world itself in another 5 years. For this purpose only, national education policy, we are all talking about it. Even in national education policy also, you must have observed, it is definitely, it is outcome based education. It is going to be a learning centric, and how we are going to learn and how you are going to implement is most important. And once again, I congratulate the information science and engineering department. They have selected the right and relevant topic for this technical program. And everyone, I hope you are going to utilize this opportunity and they share your experience and understand the technology, and in turn you are going to transfer this knowledge to our engineers. Thank you once again. I hope this particular platform, it is going to help all of you, and definitely it will be a one milestone in our college. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir, for delivering the significance of research and development with respect to Internet of Things and applications. To begin with the session of today with our program technical partners, GB Softronics, I take an immense pleasure to introduce Mr. Ganesh Liladhar Atharde, the founder and the CEO of GB Softronics Solutions India. Sir is a software programmer with a proficiency in C, C++, J2SE, J2EE, Python, MATLAB, and Embedded C, working on operating systems like Linux, Mac OS, Windows, and databases like MySQL, Oracle 9i. He is an advisory member of Jai Hind College of Arts and Commerce Science, Dombey Valley. Sir is one of the topmost performer of the NPTEL courses and has organized entrepreneurship awareness camps sponsored by Science and Technology, Government of India, New Delhi. Thank you, sir, for joining us today. May I now request Mr. Ganesh Liladhar to deliver the significance of training session to the gathering. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Good morning to all of you. Good morning, principal sir. Good morning, HOD ma'am. Good morning to all of participants. A very great morning to all of you. And we are here to learn the new things that actually you might all, the participant should have already have been gone through the different projects for their students. Some of the projects are doing some of the students are doing their projects in this field already, but I have found that the students are more knowledgeable than the staff because of this new technology, and these technologies are not included in their syllabus. The students are taking this knowledge from the Udemy or the different online platforms, but now it is time to learn these things to the staff itself. I am also working as a last 10 years. I have also worked as a staff in one of the reputed engineering college in the Nasik. But from the last 2 years, I left my job and I am on the mission to educate all the staffs and the faculty members and the student itself to make it aware related to the new modern technologies. Actually, when I learn, in a college, engineering college, I have implemented all the many projects, research projects, different research projects I have implemented. That is not even in the syllabus itself. So that is the requirement today for the faculty to learn these new things, and to, by learning yourself, you can transfer your knowledge to your student self. If your student is asking for any question, then you should prepare for it. Any advanced technology, you should learn first, not to learn from the student. You should first learn and then transfer that knowledge to your students. So that's why. But again, what is the problem with the faculty is that they are always getting towards the advanced knowledge. They're always talking about the machine learning. They're always talking about the Internet of Things. They're always talking about the protocols in the IoT, but they never talk about the basics of the embedded system and the basics of the IoT. So what is the basics of IoT? That is, you should know what is the microcontrollers and what are the different sensors, what are the different actuators, and how to interact with these sensors and actuators firstly. And then after that, when you get that data, then what to do with that data, then you can decide by doing your programming. Okay, now this is the world of the IoT. Now for doing a single program, actually you doesn't require a computer itself. You can do a simple program on your mobile itself. Your mobile becomes a computer right now. Most of my students from the workshop participants, actually they are doing all their projects from their smartphone itself. They transfer all the programs from their smartphone to the embedded device, and they can do the communication between the two IoT devices easily, very easily. So that's why now it is better to start the basic session. That's why actually I told the HOD ma'am that stick to basic first, because if you move toward the advanced, then the basic things are remaining. So we'll start with the very basic session with the what is the microcontroller, then what is the sensors, what is the actuators, and how to interface. We'll start with the how to interface with the LEDs, and what is the register, breadboard, and then all. If you from the ESE, actually you might know all these things, but if you're from the computer, actually you should know all these things, because only knowing the programming is not important in the IoT. You should know the hardware. You should know hardware, how the hardware works, and what is the communication pattern of that hardware, you should know. So that's why we'll first learn the different sensors, its working, and how to get the sensor data to our computer or to our microcontroller, and from the microcontroller to computer, how to upload that data to the IoT cloud, and then what to do with that data we will also do. And after the, I think on the 4th day, actually I will assign you one project, and you have to submit that project by within that 2 days itself. Okay, so this is from my side. So can I start this session?
2 minutes, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir. We are highly thankful to AICTE for the complete sponsorship done. I extend my heartily welcome to the conveners, Dr. Anandi, HOD ISE, Dr. Rajalakshmi, HOD CSE, and Dr. Sanjeev Sharma, HOD ECE. I welcome all the participants from various affiliated autonomous engineering colleges, deemed to be universities, experts from industry, research scholars from Odisha, Karnataka, Delhi, Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Maharashtra, Assam, Uttar Pradesh, and Jharkhand for the 6-day training program on Internet of Things and its applications. The flow of the event is as follows. There are 12 sessions, 2 sessions, 2 per day for 6 days. And the day-wise content are: day 1, Arduino software introduction, Arduino Uno introduction, actuators interfacing part 1. The day 2, actuator interfacing part 2, sensor interfacing part 1, and sensors interfacing part 2. Day 3, the Node MC MCU programming, Internet of Things and its applications. Day 4, Raspberry Pi OS installation, sensors interfacing with Raspberry Pi, actuators interfacing with Raspberry Pi. Day 5, SQLite on Raspberry Pi projects, artificial intelligence in IoT, and overview of IoT hardware circuit design using Tinkercad online simulation tool. Day 6, it's a security and privacy in IoT and an assessment. Morning, the session will be from morning 10 to 4. As per the AICTE instructions, there will be an assessment conducted for 6 days of training in the form of MCQs, and the attendance of at least 10 sessions is mandatory with assessment. After each session, the forenoon and afternoon, a Google Sheet will be floated to enter the attendance in addition with the feedback form twice a day. On behalf of the management, principal, HODs, I request all the participants to take the program sincerely so that the knowledge in the field of IoT will be well assimilated. Thank you. Over to you, Mr. Ganesh, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so should I start?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So I will be sharing my PPT first. So first session is totally theory session. So before starting this session, can anybody tell me, just use the chat window for communicating with each other. Okay, chat window is very interactive. Okay. 1 minute. Okay. Okay. Okay, so very first one is very first topic is the introduction to microcontroller. Okay, so but before starting, can you send me on chat window, can you type your branch, from which branch you are from? All the participants should type the branch. How many of you, I must know that how many of you from the ESE background, how much of you having the ISC background or CSA background? Just type your branch on your chat window. Yes, Srinivasa, ESE, Shobha, ISC, Vidya Rani, yeah, CSE, yeah, ESE, Arun Raj, ESE, Dr. Arvind Kapse, CSE, Saurabh Ganguly, CSE. Like, so it is a mixture of the ESE and CSE, yeah. Medical electronics, yeah, Padma CR. This is about medical electronics, yeah, it's very good. Okay, so I think this IoT is required for all the branches. Even mechanical also require these IoT things, because currently to communicate with the sensors, actually the wires is not there. All the data that you are getting from the sensors, that is if you are doing your research also, all the data you should capture to the cloud. So that's why your what is your machine design is there, what is your machine, that should be your IoT enabled. That's why the mechanical also requires. The medical electronics is having the very large use in your IoT. Yes. So firstly is a introduction to microcontroller. So what is a microcontroller? So first we will learn here. A microcontroller is a computer present in a single integrated circuit which is dedicated to perform one task and execute a specific application. Okay, it's not just a definition, but we will just break out this definition. So it is a computer. So computer, yeah, we know that computer take the input and it process, and after process it will do some output or it will give some output. But it is present in a single IC, single integrated circuit. It is a very small computer. It is not such a big computer that is in front of you. It is a very small computer. Why it requires small? Because of this space, because the IoT device should be small. So that's why your computer should be having the small space. So that's why we're using the microcontroller computer. It is present in a single IC, which is dedicated to perform a single task. Yeah, we know that microcontroller is performing a only single task at a time. Okay, now in modern microcontroller, we can perform more than one task also, just like your ARM7 or your ARM9. In this type of the microcontroller, actually you can design your project or your program which is running or which is executing the more than one task at a time, and that is called the multitasking system. But what we're talking about, that is your Arduino. That Arduino is a single task microcontroller, just like your 8051 and the PIC microcontroller. It performs a single task only, and it is very specific application, which is having very specific application. It contains a memory. Now what it contains? Your microcontroller contains the CPU. First, it contains CPU. It contains the memory unit. There are two types of memory unit your every computer requires. First is your hard disk, and the second was your RAM memory. So hard disk is nothing but your ROM memory. ROM memory means it's a permanent storage of the memory. So that's why whatever your data, if you want to store your data or if you want to store your code, then it requires a permanent storage, and that's your ROM memory. So that's why your microcontroller should have the ROM memory inside it, read-only memory. Also, your microcontroller should have the inbuilt RAM memory. So what is the need of RAM memory? The RAM memory is the random access memory. Generally, it is used for storing your temporary variables. Suppose if you are doing some mathematical calculation, or if you are reading your data from your sensors, and now you want to hold that data for a specific time, then you can store your data in your RAM memory. So that's why RAM memory is a very useful memory, and without RAM memory, you can't run your program. RAM memory is must. The next one is what your microcontroller contains. Your microcontroller contains IO ports. Very third important things your microcontroller should have, IO ports. Without the IO ports, actually your microcontroller cannot interact with the external world. The IO ports is very similar like your human bodies. What are the IO ports? Your mouth, your nose, your ears, your hands, your legs. These are the IO ports, IO pins. Here also we can take the different inputs to our body. We can supply that inputs to our brain, and your brain will process it. If you touch the hot thing, then your hand will recognize that this is the hot thing, and this data will be moved towards your brain, and brain will process that this is the hot, just remove your hand. In this also, in that type, actually whatever the different sensors are there and different actuators are there, to communicate with the sensors and actuators, we require the input output ports. Now, according to different microcontrollers, actually every microcontroller is having its different input output port. Just like your 8051, very famous microcontroller, having the 4 ports, P1, P2, P3 and P4. Every port is having the 8 lines, but in terms of your Arduino microcontroller, it is having the 14 digital IO pins. 14 digital IO pins. We'll see that all the details of the Arduino, but we're talking about here input output ports. So IO ports are the, you can say that it's hands and legs and the nose and the mouth of your microcontroller, using which actually you can take the input, to which you can give the output. Again, what is the next necessity of having the microcontroller? The microcontroller must have the serial port. Actually, the serial port is generally used to communicate to communicate with the other microcontrollers or your PC or your computer. Suppose your embedded device is reading the data, sensor data, and if you want to send that data to your computer, then there must have, your microcontroller should have some communication port. Now there are 2 types of port. We already know that, serial port and parallel ports. But if your microcontroller is having the parallel port, actually it is wasting of the lines. So that's why They have kept it as a serial port. Using the serial port, actually, we can send our data, whatever the data with your microcontroller is having, that data you can send to your computer, and also from the computer you can instruct to the microcontroller that this is my command and you should do this command only. So this is the now 4 things your microcontroller is having. The timers, actually it is very essential things of the CPU, because using the timers and counters, actually we can generate the delay. Counter is generally used to count the different input pulses. Okay, and don't forget about the CPU. CPU is the central processing unit. All the data that you are getting from the RAM, ROM, IO port, serial port, timer, that is fed to the CPU, and the CPU will process it. The CPU is nothing but your brain of your microcontroller, the brain of your microcontroller. And what about oscillator? This crystal oscillator. Crystal oscillator is the heart of your microcontroller, which actually it oscillates. It oscillates. Using this oscillation, using that frequency, your CPU works. Okay, so have you getting this point? What is microcontroller? It contains the different memory unit. It can have different programmable input-output peripherals and the processors. Okay, so these are some applications of microcontroller. We already have been seen this different application in our house already. Like in different input devices and the output device, you can see different sensors are there, push button switches are there, potentiometers, keypads. These are the input device, and the output device, radio links, 7-segment devices, your indicator like your LEDs, indicators, servo engines are there, stepper motors are there, analog devices and indicators are there, LCD, buzzers, speakers. These are all output devices. Now using the input device, we can read data, and after processing, whatever the output is there, we will forward that output to the output device. This is just a flow of your microcontroller. Now, what is an embedded system? Yeah, very simple. It is an integration of the sensors, yes, actuators, and some intelligence that is added by programming. Okay, so embedded system is a combination of the sensors, actuators, and the intelligence is nothing but your program. The program is also very much important. Using the program, you can read the sensor, you can actuate the actuators. With a system to produce a more capable, versatile, and the robust performance. So this is a simple definition of the embedded system. These are some applications we already been using this consumer application, just like robots. Your car is also having the embed, just like your rear camera. Okay, when you put the rear gear, actually that rear camera is there, and that rear camera will show the whatever the rear image in your whatever the display that you have put on your dashboard, that you can display. So it is very useful. So you can see the different application, washing machine also there, LCD monitor, your digital camera. Okay, you just think about anything in your consumer electronics. All these things are the applications of embedded system. Now, previously, these embedded products are acting by themselves only. They are not relied to others. So it means that suppose if there is a digital camera, that digital camera can capture only the picture, and it is storing that picture in their SD card itself. But right now there are the digital cameras are available. Just click a picture and that picture will be automatically posted on your Instagram or on your Facebook group, Facebook post. So that type of that IoT devices also comes in a picture recently. Yes. Now the microcontroller is a correct tool when you should use microcontroller, when you should use the computer. Actually, using the computer, actually you can also interact with the sensors and the actuators. But every time we are not using the computer, because computer is a costlier. Microcontroller cost is only in terms of the 400 to 500, but the cost of the computer is from the 10,000 onwards. So that's why for every project, actually, we are not putting our computer there. If some less intelligence is required, actually, we are putting the microcontroller there. So there are other systems also there. That is what is the digital electronics. If you don't want to use the microcontroller, the same intelligence you can design with the digital electronics, but there is a complex circuitry is required there. So when to use digital electronics, digital ICs, or when to use microcontroller, we'll discuss first. So microcontroller use when there is a complex intelligence is required. Okay, the complexity of the system is reduced when using a one. Okay, so if you are using a microcontroller, the space also, the required space for designing a project also becomes less. So complexity becomes less there. The cost of the microcontroller is less than using a discrete component to use the same job. Yeah, the cost of the microcontroller, if you talk about the 8051, actually the cost of microcontroller of 8051 is only 40 to 60 rupees only, if you are referring the Atmel series. So it is a very less than the discrete component, just like your digital electronics, your AND gate and OR gate. The variety of sensors and actuators must be integrated in the system. So if you want to interface the sensors and actuators, the sensors can be how the analog sensor can be how the digital sensors. So analog sensor, actually, if you want to interface with the discrete component, actually you require the very good signal conditioning system there. You require to design first analog to digital converter. So that's why the system becomes complex and more space is required. But it is not main microcontroller. Actually, the ADC and DAC are inbuilt. So that's why the space you can save there. The communication with the other devices is necessary. Yes. You can send your data from the microcontroller. You can send whatever the data that you want to communicate. You can send through the different communication model, like your serial communication. So the microcontroller is useful if you have these type of reasons. And the microcontroller is not the correct tool when to use. To use when the system requires the little or the no intelligence. Just on off. No need of microcontroller. Just if the motion is detected, then the horn, your buzzer should be activated. So this is very less intelligence there. You can design this system using the discrete component also. Okay, the system can be made easier or the cheaper using the discrete component. Okay, suppose the same system, if you are designing with the discrete component, and the cost of that system is a very lesser than the microcontroller, then always the discrete component should be preferred. But again, see the complexity. If while doing the complexity, if the space of the discrete component becomes more, then I'm not preferring the discrete component. I always prefer the microcontroller, because when to use, if you are using microcontroller, there are the different versions of microcontrollers available, just like the 4-pin microcontrollers are available, 8-pin microcontrollers, then the 16-pin, 28 pins. So whatever the versions are there, just select the any version depending on the space that you require and the IO require, then you can design your system with a very less space, because when you talk about the embedded system, the space is also having the very major role. The space of your project, the space required for your project is very essential there. So this is your embedded system concept map. You can see whatever I have talked already, all the things are mentioned in this diagram itself. So what your embedded system require, all the things are mentioned here. That is, controller, hardware and software is required, power interface is required, actuator is required, sensor is required. For the analog sensor, signal conditioning is also required. Some user interface is required, just like switches, and some power source is also required for sensors and the hardware. So this is somewhat a embedded system concept map. So are you getting this point? If you with me, then just type with me in the chat box. If you have understood all the things that I have said earlier, just type with me in your chat box. So this is just for me that you are with me or not. Yes. Or if you have any doubts or any question, just type your question in chat window. After my topic is over, I will answer your question. Yes. Yeah, now the next one is the breadboard. The breadboard, actually most of you know the breadboard, but just it is just a revision things. So what is a breadboard? A breadboard is somewhat called as a prototype board. Generally, all the teachers is required this knowledge of the breadboard, because whatever the things that we are designing, we are not directly go for the implementation. First, we will do some prototype of that program or the project, and we will test that prototype, and then after that we will go for the implementation. So this prototype board or the breadboard is very, very useful for designing your prototype. It is just a temporary connection for your electronic circuit. There is no soldering is required here. Okay, so it is a reusable platform. Again, it is very reusable platform for temporary build electronic circuit. Now we'll see how the breadboard works. Okay, so we'll see what is the inside of the breadboard. What is the outside look? This is the outside look. This is the vertical lines are there. These are the vertical lines, and these the horizontal lines above two horizontal lines, and below two vertical lines are there. Another two horizontal lines, about two horizontal lines and below two horizontal lines. These horizontal lines are generally used for connecting the power supplies. And the middle one, vertical connections, are for the
done, ma'am. Which one? Inventor privilege form.
okay. All the participants are requested to put their mic on.
We got the receipt from patent office.
You got the receipt.
Then you give that out.
Yeah. Artik Ghosh.
On Friday we got afternoon.
Yes,
Me,
yes.
Tisha,
3 days, madam.
3 days.
Now,
Okay. So sorry for disturbance actually. So what the breadboard? The breadboard from the above side, actually this look like this. But if you open the breadboard, actually you will see this metal strip connected there. These are the horizontal strips. You can see that 4 horizontal strips are there actually. 4 horizontal strips, and you know that all the horizontal strips means this is the metal strips, and these strips are connected to each other, and these are the vertical strips, and depending on your logical connection, actually we will do the different connections here. How the connections are made, I will be teaching you if you don't know. Okay, so got the breadboard. Actually how the breadboard works, actually what is the inner connection of the breadboard, actually you have to remember these vertical lines and the horizontal lines. Okay, so another view again. Now all holes in the selected rows are internally connected. whole row is not connected there. Whole row is not connected. The only half row is connected here. Only half row is internally connected. If you want to connect here from this, okay, so here, suppose if you want to do the connection here itself, then what you need to do, you have to put the jumper wire from this place to this place here. If you're placing the jumper wire here, so whatever the connection from this is transferred to this. Suppose you have connected the ground here, the ground should be transferred here. If you require the more holes of the ground, then this connection should be must here. Okay. Okay, so this is the very simple connection of the LED. To test the LED, to test the breadboard connection again, this first connection you should do first. One breadboard is there, LED is connected. Now we know that LED is having the two terminals. First one is anode terminal and the cathode terminal. To glow the LED, the anode terminal should be connected to the positive supply of your power supply, and the negative terminal should be connected, or the cathode terminal should be connected to the negative terminal of your power supply. Anode to positive, cathode to negative. This makes your LED is in a forward bias. Okay, so if your diode is in a forward bias, so it acts and your LED will glow. Okay, so if you make the connection only, then only your LED will glow. But your LED, to glow the LED, you hardly require only 0.7 volt. You require 0.7 volt. But actually, if you connect this LED to the higher supplier, the like your 5 volt power supply, then you should make the series connection of the resistor here. In between this connection, in between this circuit, actually, you should put one resistor here. This resistor will make actually, this resistor will use for the voltage drop, and it will reduce the current which is flow through the LED. And if you are not connecting this resistor, then your LED will directly burn. It will burn directly. So do not connect LED to directly. You should connect this LED through the resistor, and the value, what is the value of resistor? The value of resistor should be from 100 ohm to 1 kilo ohm, depending on which power supply that you are using. For 5 volt, I prefer 220 ohm or 330 ohm. Okay, if you want more brightness, you can even use the 100 ohm also, but better to use 220 ohm to 330 ohm for the 5 volt power supply for Arduino itself. If you want to connect the LED, then 330 to 220 ohm, this should be connected. So what is connected, how it is connected? Have you understood this? You can see here, this is the anode terminal of your LED. This is connected to the positive terminal of your battery. So this is the positive terminal of your battery. It is connected through these holes because it is internally connected, and through this wire actually I have connected here, and now this vertically this columns is connected, and now this through the vertical columns actually this positive supply will get to the anode terminal of your LED, and the cathode terminal is connected to the again the one terminal of your resistor. Now the second terminal of your resistor is connected to the your ground terminal or the negative terminal of your battery through this horizontal supply. Okay, so these are very basic things that I am talking about. Okay, so if you don't know, you should revise these things, and if you have the breadboard with you, just make this connection at your side and check the connection. Okay, now we'll move towards the introduction to Arduino. Okay, so I think most of you might have use this Arduino before, because most of the prototype we are doing on the Arduino itself. So just type how many of you have used the Arduino before. Just type me in the chat box. If you already have used Arduino before, then just type me in the chat box. Yes. Yes, only one. Basavraj. Yeah. Yeah, Srinivas Gopal. Saurabh Ganguly. Yes. Yeah, most of ESC staffs have been used this Arduino before, because nowadays for project actually it is very famous one. So what is Arduino Uno? Arduino Uno is a prototype board. It is a prototype board generally used for prototyping purpose. Also, this can be used for your project purpose also. Nowadays, most of the now in a COVID, actually in a COVID pandemic, when in April itself, when there is a sanitization is the main problem, one of the company from in our region, from the Nasik region, actually they have invented the automatic sanitizer machine. Now what is that automation there? When you place your hand in front of that machine, automatically the your hand will be sanitized by using the sanitizer. Okay, so what the logic is very simple. It will detect the hand by using the IR sensor, and when the hand is detected, it will activate the motor, it will activate the pump, and the pump will shower the sanitizer on your hand. Very simple. And actually they are earning a lot today. They have migrated from their regular business to this business. Okay, so that's why the innovation, if you have the innovative minds, you always have the opportunity in the business. And they have used this Arduino for the prototyping, and then after that also they have used the Atmega 32 IC which is present in your Arduino in their projects or in their sanitizer machine. So that's why for testing your project in a very fast, you require this prototyping board. So we will learn this first, what done by Arduino. The definition we'll see first. So definition is taken from the one of the official websites, arduino.cc. So the definition is, the Arduino is an open source electronics prototyping platform. It is an open source. Okay, no need to pay to anyone. Open source electronics prototyping platform based on flexible, easy to use hardware and the software. Okay, its main purpose is it should be a easy to use hardware. It's intended for artists, designer, hobbyists, and anyone interested in creating interactive objects or the environment. Even 5th standard students also uses the Arduino for their projects. So it is very easy to use. No need to look inside of the microcontroller. Directly you can start implementing your ideas. So in year 2005, that the first ever Arduino board was born in the classroom of the Interactive Design Institute in Italy. And it is created by the Massimo Banzi and the other founders. So the Arduino developer or the Arduino creator is the Massimo Banzi. Just remember this word. Remember the name. Arduino developer team: David, Gianluca, Tom, David, and the Massimo Banzi. This is the team of the Arduino. Now we'll move towards the types of Arduino boards. So there are the different types of Arduino board. These are only some of the listed, but this is not limited. If you want to know the different types of Arduino boards, again, just go to the Google and just search the variants of Arduino variants. These are some famous variants that I have listed here. First one is your Arduino Uno, very famous. Second one is the Leonardo. Actually, in India, Leonardo is costlier, that's why no one is using Leonardo. But it is very similar like your Uno. Lilypad, its size is a ₹1 size only, ₹1 coin size. The old ₹1 size, the Lilypad is having. So if you have the space matter, and if you still you want to use the Arduino, then Lilypad is the option for you. If you want the more IOs, input output ports, then the Arduino Mega is again very useful. Arduino Mega. It is having total 54 input output lines, 54 IO lines. Arduino Uno is having only 14 IO lines. So if you want to design a very large project, just prefer the Mega, Arduino Mega. Then Mini is also there, Mini. Yeah, Mini is a very small one. It is a 2 inches size. But again, you required again somewhat very small microcontroller, Arduino microcontroller. Then is the Mini is for you, Arduino Mini. Arduino Mini is only 1 inch long, 1 inch long. It is having the it is having the 14 IO pins. Then the next one is the Arduino BT. BT stands for the Bluetooth. It is having the Bluetooth inbuilt. So these are some variants of the Arduino boards. Depending on the requirements of your project and the prototype, actually you are selecting one of these. But most of times the Uno will fulfill all the requirements. So that's why Uno is the most of the famous board among the students and the staff. So that Arduino Uno is having the all things are available there. IOs are available, digital IOs are available, analog IOs are available, power supplies are also available. But if you want more things, suppose if you want to connect the LCD, then we need to do the connection between the Arduino and the LCD. If you want to connect the Wi-Fi, then you should purchase the Wi-Fi adapter, and that Wi-Fi adapter should be, you should connect to your Arduino Uno. But in a market, actually there is a need that again we require somewhat, again we require the faster implementation of my project. We don't go for the, we don't want to go for the somewhat interfacing. So that's why in a market actually the Arduino shields comes. So Arduino shields are having a very specific purpose. For example, the Ethernet shield. If you connect the Ethernet shield above the Arduino Uno, then now Arduino Uno is having its previous functionality also, and the new functionality is added as it also support the Ethernet. So you can plug in the LAN cable into your Arduino Uno. If you connect the LCD shield, then LCD is directly being available on your Arduino itself. And connecting the shield is very, very easy work. You just have to put these things shield on the above the Arduino, and your Arduino is now ready to use directly with the more functionality. So you can use a motor shield, make it easier to control the motors. You can use the Ethernet shield to connect your Arduino to Ethernet. So these are some examples of the shields, and these are the more shields. You can take the pictures of it. Different shield like keyboard shield is there, your switch, your joystick shield is there, camera shield is there, Ethernet shield is there, your gas sensor shield is there, LCD shield is there. All the possible interfacing, they have kept it as a as a shield there. They have designed their shield, and so you can design your own shield and you can also sell your shield to the market if it is usable. So we'll see the internal details of the Arduino Uno boards. How many pins are there? Now this is very important for you, because before starting the interfacing part, actually you should know what hardware that you are using. So Arduino Uno we are talking about. So very first thing is, the first question is, the Arduino Uno board is having the which microcontroller? What is the name of the microcontroller? And the answer is the Atmel Atmega 328P P-PU. It is the microcontroller Atmel Atmega 328P-PU. Now one more thing that I should clear with you. If you purchase the Atmel Atmega 328P-PU from the market directly, it is not directly Arduino ready. It is not directly Arduino ready. If you want to program this microcontroller using the Arduino, you should download the bootloader into this microcontroller. So bootloader should be present. Bootloader is nothing but it is the operating system of your Arduino. Because you are using the different platform, you are not using the embedded platform, you are not using the embedded C, you are using a one specific simplified platform. So to understand that simplified platform, your Atmega 328P should have one program in it which is identify your Arduino, or which can be communicated with the Arduino. So that's why if you want to do an Arduino project, use in that Atmega 328P, buy the IC with the bootloader. Bootloader is very must. Or if you are buying the Atmega 328P without bootloader, then you can easily download the bootloader. There are the various videos are available. Using that videos, actually you can follow that video and you can even download yourself the bootloader into that Atmega 328P. The specification of the Atmega 328P is it is a 8-bit microcontroller. 8-bit, it can process the 8-bit data at a time only, just like 8051. And again, the crystal frequency required for the Atmega 328P is the 16 megahertz crystal oscillation. It is having the 32 kilobytes of the flash memory, that is your RAM memory. So permanent storage is the 32 kilobyte. This permanent storage actually required to store your code as well as your permanent data or your constant data. The next one is it is having the inbuilt 1 kilobytes of the EEPROM, electrical erasable programmable read only memory. 1 kilobytes of, there is 1024 locations are there that you can use while executing your program to store your data as a permanently. Generally, when you run your program, while executing your program, you should have only access to the RAM memory. You are not having the access to the flash memory. You cannot write your data into the flash memory. So to store your permanent data, there is a EEPROM is there, EEPROM. In that EEPROM, you can store your permanent data while executing your program. Okay, so what is any permanent data? Permanent data you can store into EEPROM. Just like, for example, there is one LED you have connected, and suppose there is one switch is connected. Suppose you switch on that, you have pressed the switch, your LED is on now, and you remove the power supply. Again, connect the power supply. Now your LED is in the reset state. That is, whatever you have done the programming, actually that will decide that the state of your LED. That is, if it is initially off, then by resetting your microcontroller, it is always off. But if you want to store the state of that LED, then you can store the state of the LED into the EEPROM itself. When you switch on the LED, that 1 should be right into the EEPROM, and if the EEPROM contains is 1, then the LED is on. So when you remove the power supply and when you reconnect the power supply, your LED will be on or off depending not on the state of the your switch. It will be read the EEPROM. If it is 1, then the LED is on. If it is 0, then the LED will. It is very, very useful while designing your home automation system. Whatever the previous state of your device, it should be preserved, and that should be preserved when you write the state into the EEPROM. And it is having the 2 kilobytes of the SRAM, static RAM, that is your RAM memory. So 2 kilobytes of RAM memory it is having. So 2048 locations are there, a temporary location that you can use for storing your temporary data. So this is about your microcontroller. The next thing is the digital IOs. So how many digital IOs it is having? It is having the 14 digital IOs. These are the digital IOs. These are digital IOs. The digital IOs totally 14 number from 0 to 13. Pin number 0, pin number 1 is reserved for the transmitter and the receiver of the serial communication. So I've always prefer that do not use the pin number 0 and pin number 1 to connect your digital sensor. I not always prefer. But if you are not using the serial communication, then you can use it. But it is facing some problem if you are using the serial communication as well as you are using the same pin for the digital IO. So that's why I prefer that you do not use the TX and RX pin, that is pin number 0 and 1 for the serial you are connecting your digital sensors. This always reserve these 2 pins for the serial communication. So from pin number 2 to pin number 13, these are now general purpose. Now these I can use for connecting your digital sensors and actuators. So pin number 2 to pin number 13. How many are there? Total 11 pins are only there for the digital IOs. 2 to 13. Okay. Now you can see here pin number 3, pin number 5, pin number 6, pin number 9, 10 and 11. In front of the pins there is a tilde symbol is there. The tilde symbol represent it is a PWM pins. So it means that it is having the capability, extra capability, more capability. It is having the dual functionality that it can be used for a general purpose digital IO, or still it can be used for the outputting the PWM pins, is the pulse width modulation signal. If you want to send the square wave to the pin number 3, 5, 6, 9, 10 and 11, and that square wave pulse width, if you want to modulate, that is if you want to change the duty cycle of that particular square wave, then you can change it on using only these pins. If you are using 2, 4, 8, 12 and 13 pins, then these pins are not having this functionality. So whatever the suppose if some actuators are there and that actuators require the PWM signals, then connect that actuator to pin number 3, 5, 6 and 9, 10 and 11. Only these pins are only capable of outputting the PWM. The next one is the reset button. This is the reset button. Reset button, you already know that to reset your whatever, if your microcontroller is stuck at any point, if you want to reset it, just press the button. Your microcontroller start performing from the first instruction. So your program is a rerun. restart your computer. It's just like you are restarting your computer. Now, what are the different pins that your Arduino Uno is having? It is having the analog pins A0 to A5. Analog pins are used for interfacing the analog sensors. Just like your digital pins are used for the digital sensor, analog pins are used for the analog sensors. Just like your temperature sensor LM35. 1 minute, there is an urgent call is there. I will be back in 5 minutes. No problem. Okay. So 6 analog sensors are there, A0 to A5. To that analog sensors, actually we are connecting the different analog pins, analog sensor pins, like your LM35 temperature sensor, which will produce the output in a voltage. Like if the temperature increases, voltage increases. So that change in the voltage we can detect in this analog pins. So it means that there is 6 ADCs are available, analog to digital converters are available with the Atmega 328P. And its resolution is the 10-bit resolution. 10-bit resolution means the minimum data that we can get from the ADC is all zeros, that is decimal 0. And the maximum data that we can get from the ADC is the all ones, that is in decimal it is converted to 1023. So the data that we are getting from A0 to A5 varies from 0 to 1023 only. So any sensor that you are connecting to the A0 to A5, you are getting the data in terms of this one only, A0 to 1023. Okay. Now next pins are the power pins. The power pins are the V in. First one is the V in and the ground. Second one is ground. If you have the battery with you, 9-volt battery or the 12-volt battery is also sufficient. 9-volt battery or 12-volt battery if you want, if you have, and if you want to power up this Arduino board, then you can power up this Arduino board through this V in and ground pins. Just connect the 9-volt battery to these 2 pins, positive VCC to V in, ground to ground, and now your Arduino Uno is powered up. This is the one of the way to power up this Arduino Uno. The second way to power up the Arduino Uno is through the USB. We already know that your USB, universal serial bus pin, USB also having the 4 pins, VCC, data in, data out, and the ground pins. Out of that VCC and ground pins, VCC and ground of the USB supply is the 5-volt power supply, and using that 5-volt power supply, actually you can power up this Arduino board. This is the second way to power up the board. Generally we are preferring this method, powering the Arduino Uno through the USB. The third way to power up the Arduino board is through the DC power jack. So we required to connect the DC adapter, AC to DC adapter. Actually in a market, actually 9-volt adapter to 12-volt adapter comes in. You just have to purchase it and just connect that adapter to the board, and now your Arduino is powered up. Now in a 3 ways actually you can power up this board. First one is connect the directly USB. Second one is use the DC power jack, but this requires the adapter, 9-volt adapter or the 12-volt adapter is required. And the third one is if you have the battery with you, 9-volt battery, and if you want to power up the Arduino Uno, then you can power up by using the V in and ground pin. So 3 ways. Any one of you having USB cable is having, powered up through USB. Adapter, powered up through adapter. Battery, yeah, all things are available. So it is a very easy for powering up. Now next one, in the power lines, actually there are more lines are given, like ground, 5-volt and 3.3 volt. These more lines are given. Now what is the use of these lines? These lines are the power out lines. Power out lines. What is the need of power out lines? Suppose it is LCD is there, liquid crystal display or the 7-segment display, or simply any other sensor is there or actuator is there. And suppose if you want to power up that actuator or sensor, you want to give the power if to act or to operate that sensor or the actuator or the any display device, you require the power supply. Generally the power supply, very two famous power supply, 5-volt power supply and the 3.3 power supply. We have already been powered up the Arduino Uno board, but we need to power up the external devices also. To power up the external devices, this power out pin is very, very useful there. Suppose in case of the LCD liquid crystal display 16:2, it requires the 5-volt power supply. You can take that 5-volt power supply from the board itself. You don't require the extra power supply. Suppose there is one Wi-Fi connector is there like ESP01. It requires 3.3-volt power supply. So here this Arduino Uno is having the power out as a 3.3-volt also. It is having the inbuilt AMS 117. This power regulator is there. 7805 is also there, and AMS 1117. This regulator is also there, which will give the power output as a 3.3 volt. So power out is also there. Power in also we have seen there. LCD in a digital IO is also we have seen. Analog IO we have also seen. So just remember that TX RX we don't have to use there. Just release that RX and TX pin for the serial communication, because the same pins we are using to download our program into the microcontroller. Okay, so do not use the RX and TX. Okay, so there are 2 LEDs are there, actually 4 LEDs are there, but out of that 2 LEDs are very, very useful. The first one is your power on LED. When you power on LED, when you power off this Arduino Uno through any of this technique, USB or power jack or through battery, the power on LED should be on. If it is on, then only you can say that the power is okay. The Arduino Uno has got the power. The next one is the LED. The LED is internally connected to pin number 13. It is for the testing purpose. Pin number 13 is directly connected to LED. So for testing purpose, generally what we do, first we will do some blinking LED program and we will blink the pin number 13. So it means that LED will start blinking. So this is only for testing purpose. The next one is TX and RX LED. These 2 LEDs indicate that the transmission and the reception is going on. Suppose for uploading your program from computer to your Arduino, actually you are sending the data to Arduino. That's why it is RX pin is continuously blinking. So it is blinking means a reception is going on. If Arduino Uno is sending the data, the TX LED will blink. So it means that transmission LED is going on. So it is only for indication that the serial communication is going on, transmission is going on or the reception is going on. So are you getting these things? Are you getting these points? Any difficulty in the Arduino board, can you if you have any difficulty, just give that difficulty in your chat window, or if you have cleared, just type cleared. Just type cleared, then we'll move forward. Yes, just I require the response. Clear? Any doubts? If you have any doubts, just ask me any doubt. Okay. Okay, so this is the specification that we have already talked about. Microcontroller Atmega 328P. Actually, this is very important because at the 6th day, actually, you are going to face the that assignment. In that assignment, actually, this type of question can be asked. So that's why just make a snapshot of it. Voltage, operating voltage is 5 volt. Input voltage is recommended is 7 to 12 volt. Okay, so limit is 6 to 20 volt. Digital IO pins is 14, out of which 6 pins are the PWM pins. Analog input pins are 6. The DC current per IO, this is a very important one. DC current per IO pins. So it means that what are the maximum current can be flow through the any digital IO pin, and that is the maximum 40 milliampere. And if you are connecting one actuator which is drawing the more current than the 40 milliampere, then your IO pin will be burned. Remember that. Do not, just like your DC motor, if you are connecting DC motor to directly your IO pin, then definitely your IO pin will be burned, because it requires the current in terms of the 100 to 200 milliamperes or even 500 milliamperes. So that's why we require that L293D, that motor driver IC. Okay, so always just make sure that if you are connecting any actuator, then the current flowing through that actuator should be less than 40 milliampere. That is very important one. And the DC current for 3.3 volt pin is only 50 milliampere. Okay, so power out pin 3.3 volt pin, it is a maximum 350 milliampere current it can flow. The flash memory is 32 kilobytes, out of which 0.5 kilobyte is used by bootloader. 0.5 KB is already being used by bootloader. We already have been talk about the bootloader. What is bootloader? Because if you want to program your Atmega 328P using the Arduino, the bootloader should be there. So SRAM 2 kilobytes, EEPROM 1 kilobytes. EEPROM requires a 1 kilobytes, and the clock frequency is the 16 megahertz. What is the one question is what is the current capacity of power out? Power out. Yeah, I have tested up to the 400 milliampere 5 volt, but it totally depending on what type of power in you have used. That is, if you have used the adapter, if you have used the adapter and if your adapter is having the 12 volt 1 ampere, then up to the 500 milliampere it can flow, because there is no connection to the Arduino Uno there. It is directly 7805 is connected there, and 7805 is directly connected to that 5 volt power supply. Okay, so it depending on the regulator IC. I have tested up to the 400 to 500 milliampere for 5 volt. For 3.3 volt, it is mentioned that it is 50 milliampere. Again, one more question, sir. Any difference between Arduino and the simple circuit board? There are a lot of differences there. Arduino Uno is very easier one. If you study the any other development board, just like 8051 PIC microcontroller, to start even programming of that development board, actually you require to study the whole microcontroller first, then only you can start. But from the day first only you can start doing the programming of Arduino. And this is the another micro Arduino board, Arduino Mega 2560. If you have very large connection, or suppose there are the very large sensors are there or actuators are there, and now you have only the 12 IOs are remaining in Arduino Uno, but suppose you require more IOs, then what you prefer? You always prefer the Arduino Mega 2560. It is having total 54 IOs. Again, as the IOs are more, the PWM pins are more. Interrupts are more. Two interrupts are there for Arduino Uno only, interrupt 0 and interrupt 1. Pin number 2 and pin number 3, this is used for interrupt purpose, interrupt 0 and interrupt 1. In Arduino Uno, for Arduino Mega actually, there are total 6 interrupts are there. Pin number 21, 20, 18 and 19, these are again used for the more interrupts. Again, analog pins are also more in your Arduino Mega 2560. Total 16 analog pins are there, but I always prefer only use 6 of them only. At a time, you can use only 6 of them. Remaining pins you can use for the digital IOs. Okay, but these are only given there. The remaining pins, and now all the Arduino shield that is for the Arduino Uno, you can use that shield with the Arduino Mega also, because it is Arduino Uno compatible. Arduino Uno compatible. Arduino Uno shield can be placed on the Arduino Mega, but the only use of the Arduino Mega is if you want the more IOs, then you prefer the Arduino Mega. There is no such a difference, but the difference is in the IC that we are using. In Arduino Uno, we are using ATmega 328. In Arduino Mega, we are using the ATmega 2560. ATmega 60, ATmega 328. The representation, what is this number 328, 328? It is nothing but your 32 kilobytes flash memory, and it is an 8-bit microcontroller, 328P. Okay, it is 32 kilobytes. Okay, 32 kilobyte, 32 and the 8-bit microcontroller. And here it is a 256 kilobyte. It is 256 kilobyte. Flash memory is it is a very far. If your program is a very fast, if your program is very big, it is not fit into the 32 kilobytes, then Arduino Mega should be preferred, out of which 4 kilobytes will be used by the bootloader. Okay, the remaining difference you can see there. Digital IO pins is 54, analog IO pins are 16. The current is same as that of your Arduino Uno, 40 milliampere and the 50 milliampere. SRAM is now increased. The SRAM is the 8 kilobytes. In ATmega 328, it is only 2 kilobytes. But in ATmega, Arduino Mega, it is a 8 kilobyte. EEPROM also increased, 4 kilobytes EEPROM. Previously, it is 1 kilobytes in Uno. In Mega, it is 4 kilobytes. Clock frequency is same. There is one question again. What is the minimum digital input scan time I use to read the input? Digital input scan time. Okay, I need to look into this because this is related to your data sheet. You should look into the data sheet of the microcontroller. In that data sheet, actually, that scan time table is there, and that scan time in the scan time, actually, you can see that what is the response time of that particular pin. Okay, so Arduino program development. Okay, so but before starting the that development, actually, because the next session is related to the introduction of your Arduino software. It is already 12 o'clock, so we'll stop here. We'll take a break of the 2 hours. We'll come back here 2 to 4, and from the 2 to 4, actually, I will be teach you that what is that Arduino software, how we can do the different ways to do the Arduino programming, online mode, offline mode also we can cover. Then we'll do one program of blinking LED, and if possibly, then we'll start doing a more programming practice or hands-on practice. So if anyone from the NHC can share the attendance link. Yeah, anyone from NHC, share the attendance link. Yeah, ma'am. Can you share the attendance link? Yeah, because it is, I have to end the session. It is already 12 o'clock. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, yes. Yes, yes. Yes, 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 yes. Yes. Okay, so just wait for 1 or 2 minutes. Actually, we will be, once they have shared the attendance link, I will share with you. So meanwhile, actually, any doubts? Just ask me any doubts. Okay, attendance link I have posted on chat window. Just go there. Go there and fill the attendance. On chat window, actually, you will getting the that link of the attendance. Just go there, click on the link, and just fill it. Yeah, good question. Actually, the same question is for me also. Why there is a 0 is there, 2560? Because his name is given. Actually, I never getting that questions. The same question is with me. Why there is a 0? Yeah, good question. Once I found the question, that answer, I will be posting you. Yeah, which language is preferred? Actually, it will be it will be covered in the next session, but you have already asked the question. Which language preferred for Arduino? Actually, Arduino uses the C++ language. C++ language. But it doesn't mean that if you don't know C++, then you can't do programming. It is a very, very different than C++. It is a modified C++. You can say that. The 80% are from the Arduino itself. They have designed their own functions. There is no main function present in the Arduino program. No main function. And some of the program can using Python, right? I'm not getting your question. Some of program can using the Python, right? Yeah, I'm using the Python actually for doing the programming of the Raspberry Pi actually. That is a fourth day. On fourth day actually, on fourth day, we are using Raspberry Pi, and for doing the program of the Raspberry Pi, we are using the Python. So there are such a compilers are there actually in the market. Actually, they are using for doing the Arduino programming in a front end. Actually, they are always changing there for simplicity. The block programming also come in the picture. Block programming, just attach the blocks, and just compile that. Your program is automatically ready at the background. No need to write a single line of code. That is for the students for the 5th and 6th standards. Yes, so have you filled the attendance? So it's already 12 o'clock. So we'll stop here and we'll meet exactly at 2 o'clock. 2 to 4 is the next session. next session, we will start learning the Arduino software as well as the interfacing part. So meet you at 2 o'clock. Thank you. Thank you for listening.